Roger Boyce, thank you for joining me. Fascinating piece in the Times now by you, as well as being one of the gloomiest assessments I've seen for a while. Just sum up for us, if you can, why do you suggest that Ukraine will not last until next spring?
Well, the crucial factor is they're running out of money. And there have been different schemes for raising money for Ukraine to see it through. That's, in other words, not just to pay for weapons, but to keep the state running. And they've all foundered in various levels of Western disagreement, from which you have to read that the heart of the West really is not in maintaining the battle.
Right. I mean, so you argue the strength of Ukraine's friends' rhetoric isn't matched by the strength of their actual commitment to the cause of Ukraine. When you hear European and other leaders speaking positively about the business of helping Ukraine do what it needs to do against Russia, are they not sincere, do you think?
Well, they're sincere up to a certain point, and that point is where voters or opposition parties can make, where either voters reject it and say, why are we having to go without warm heating ourselves in order to maintain a country far away of which we know nothing, or it gives fuel to far-right parties who are almost universally opposed to any intervention against the Russian invasion.
Yeah, I mean, there was a big plan on the table when European Union leaders last met in Brussels at the European Council. The plan on the table was to use Russia's frozen assets, there's over 300 billion euros of it, and use that as the basis for it's called a loan for Ukraine, a reparations loan. It wouldn't actually be repayable. And as you point out in your piece, Belgium had worries about that. They hold most of the funds in the Euroclear financial institution. Well, now we've had Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, saying, look, it'll be okay, it'll be approved in December. I mean, if it happens, Roger, which it might, could that then be the game changer?
You mean if the money is actually found?
If the money, there's billions sitting in accounts in cash, in accounts in Euroclear and elsewhere. If that is then taken and used to back up a £140 billion, reparations loan to Ukraine, would that be a game changer?
Yeah, well, it would certainly keep Ukraine on the field, and it would allow for a regular supply of armaments, because at the moment what is happening is that America is not supplying arms, but it is allowing Europe to buy arms from America to give to Ukraine. Yeah. So this arrangement would continue, and providing that they're allowed to use these arms in a way that bamboozles bamboozles the Russians and delays their advance, then it will give Ukraine an extra year, perhaps.
Yes.
No. It's very difficult to get any concrete estimate of this. But the truth is, it's not just about the arms. Ukraine needs to function as a state, and it's got a massive deficit, and will have an even bigger one next year. And its exports have been sliced, partly by Russian blockades, and it's struggling. It's struggling to feed, to house, to heat the country. So there are always two dimensions when you look at Ukraine.
Yes.
One is, can it possibly raise an army and keep on raising an army that can match the huge force that Russia is now has now trained
Yes.
and is now getting ready to use.
Yes.
And the second is, can it pay the bills? And unless we help on both those aspects, and they're linked, you have to draw the conclusion that Europe has lost the will for a Ukrainian victory.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty dark thought. And as you point out again in your piece, I mean, if this happens, if this money is taken and used in this way for Ukraine, there'd more or less inevitably be legal challenges by Russia. Now, not clear where they would happen. Possibly on a number of different fronts, maybe in domestic courts, maybe in Belgium, maybe at the European Court of Justice, although Russia sort of observes that only when it wants to, and maybe even the European Convention on Human Rights, although Russia does not buy into that. But that is the thing which has held back some European support.
Yes, I mean, the ideal thing would be if all of the European nations said, we will muck in. And cover this, since there's no realistic chance of Russia ever paying back or paying reparations to Ukraine for the damage it's done. The only way is to muck together and build up a pan-European defense fund that can keep it going. But Hungary has always opposed this kind of arrangement. Belgium now opposes it because they've read the small print, and the small print says quite clearly that Belgium, which houses an organization called Euroclear, which is holding all of these frozen Russian assets, would be the most liable. And so Belgium has been asking around and saying, well, who else is in? And nobody wants to be in. Yeah. There are elections coming up in different countries, and the far right is making hay.
Yeah, I mean, well, another rather gloomy note, or maybe it's just harsh reality. There was a lot of fanfare when President Trump announced he was sanctioning 2 giant Russian oil corporations. And you point out in your piece that can be overcome just by the use of layer after layer of shell companies.
Yes, I mean, Russia's been expecting this. In theory, it's a huge blow. Lukoil and Rosneft, these are the 2 big hard currency earners at Russia's disposal. But the truth is, they've been operating shadow fleets for the last 2 years. They know exactly how to dodge sanctions. They're they're selling oil cheaply to countries that are willing to help Russia along, China and India.